Coming up next, the story of one of the most sampled songs in music history. In fact, it might be the most sampled song ever. Not only has it been sampled by numerous iconic songs and artists over the years, but it also influenced one of the biggest records of all time. The co-writer and co-singer of this 80s #1 smash tells us how the song was created and how, contrary to popular belief, it is not a relationship song. It's actually a song about standing up against high-powered elites in the music business. It's also a parentheses song as well. The story's coming up next, the interview on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. We have some really special, really cool interviews coming up on this channel. Make sure that you subscribe below by hitting the red button so that you know exactly when they drop. Really excited about some of these coming up. As well as I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series, Revelations. This is where featured artists reveal rare stories about their biggest songs and fascinating insight about their careers, their albums, their greatest moments, stuff you won't find anywhere else. On this installment of Revelations, we go behind one of the most iconic tracks of the 80s. It was a #1 hit. It's been sampled hundreds of times, really due to its dynamic musical makeup, its never-ending hooks. I'm talking about one of the most famous parentheses songs ever written. I can't go for that. No can do. I was fortunate to sit down with a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and singer-songwriter extraordinaire John Oates from Hall and Oates, and he breaks down the making and the meaning of the song. It's really interesting. John Oates, outside of maybe Magnum PI's Tom Selleck in the 80s, had the most famous mustache, right? His voice is one of the most recognized in pop radio history, soulful, sensational, especially on this song. I love the little background emotional vocals he does. And there's no doubt that Daryl Hall has one of the greatest voices ever. Without John Oates, he just brings an element to it. They're just incredible together. John Oates has co-written numerous #1 hits. Man Eater, Out of Touch. Today's featured song, of course. Late 1981 was an interesting time in the charts. I've got a little bit of that history back here. Starting in November of 1981, Daryl Hall and John Oates, they just hit #1 for the third time with their pop classic, Private Eyes. Then they were replaced by Olivia Newton John's hit Physical. And that spent 10 weeks at #1. And then Hall & Oates replaced her with their fourth #1 hit, this hypnotic 80s standard. I can't go for that, no can do. So they essentially almost replaced themselves at #1. There was one song in between. All the while, Foreigner's Waiting for a Girl Like You is at #2 for a record 11 weeks. I can't go for that, no can do. Like I said, such a distinct musical makeup, the bass, the sax solo. We're going to discuss all of this in the interview. You're going to enjoy it. As we go into the interview with John Oates, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. Eyewear for everyone. That's what their motto is. Make sure to check out the latest deals at zenni.com or at the link below. Here's John Oates. Well, that was #1, and it was succeeded by Olivia Newton John, Physical, which was #1 for 10 weeks. And then you guys came in after that. There was like a sandwich. It was #1 song by you, then Olivia Newton John takes over for 10 weeks, and then you guys come back in with I Can't Go For That. You're the only artist to have done that in the 80s outside of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson did that too, where he didn't replace himself at #1. There was one song in between two #1 hits, and you and Michael Jackson were the only ones to do that.
Well, I guess we're in pretty good company then.
Oh, yeah. But let's talk about I Can't Go For That, which again, ironically succeeded Physical, which overtook you guys for #1, and then you overtook that. But Michael Jackson being the only artist, which is interesting because he was influenced by that song, and I want to talk about that. But that was not only a massive hit on the pop charts, it was a massive hit on the dance charts and on the R&B charts. It was a true triple crown winner, as they call it. But tell us the story about how you and Daryl created what has become a pop standard? Because that's a great story about how you were in the studio, everybody left, it's just you and Daryl and Neil Kernan, the producer.
Yeah, well, that you basically have set the stage right there. That's exactly what happened. Studio was empty. I think Daryl had that idea, or a version of that idea, running around in his head for a while, but he didn't really have it fleshed out. And he sometimes the muse comes down, and I remember he walked out to the keyboard, that particular keyboard he was using, and here again with that exact same drum machine sitting there, the one that we used on Kiss on My List, that rolling pump, sitting on top of it. And and he hit the groove and started doing that bass line. Dong ga dum boom 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 dong ga dum. And that was it. And he started singing some stuff. He said, get your guitar. And I got the guitar, and he said, try something like this, a muted thing, gong, 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 gong. And I played that. And that was it. Keyboard, drum machine, and guitar. That was all that was on the record. And then we said, okay, we got something here. And we came back the next day and began to flesh it out. And then that's when we, of course, we added saxophone. We added the little synthesizer gliss, And if you really analyze that record, there's nothing on that record. I mean, there's a drum machine, and I think we added some real drums over the drum machine, keyboard, guitar, and sax, and a synthesizer. So that's it.
Yeah, well, and it's a Roland Compu. It was a Roland Compu Rhythm, right?
Compu Rhythm, yeah. It was the first one. It was a little square box with a fake wooden veneer outside, and it had 4 presets. And the tempo you could adjust by a rotary knob, but it didn't tell you how fast it was. There was no beats per minute. You just turned it until it felt right, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's the way everything should be, by the way.
Yeah. The Rock 1 setting,
Rock 1, baby. You can't go wrong with Rock 1.
Yeah. Well, that saxophone solo by Charlie DeChant. I mean, come on. Just incredible.
Charlie DeChant is a great player. He's one of the great saxophone players. And I will say of all time, rock, jazz, I don't care what, you put him up there with anybody. He's an incredible musician, and we're very fortunate to have had him in the band since the mid-'70s.
Well, many people think that I Can't Go For That's about relationships, but as I understand it, it was a lot about the music business and about not being pushed around by labels and agents and that type of thing. Tell me about that.
Well, I think, by that time, Daryl and I were having this incredible swell of popularity, 80s popularity. It was really starting to hit home. The demands on our time, the demands to be here and there, to travel, to tour all over the world, to make more records, get them out quickly, to take advantage of the momentum that we had on pop radio. I think that was starting to wear on it. I don't think it was starting to wear on us, and that song is a reaction to that. Everyone always wants to, people like to ascribe a romantic, always kind of put a romantic twist on pop lyrics. This song doesn't have much romance involved. It's really about, as you said, you described it perfectly. Don't push me around. I can only go so far, and that's what it's about.
Well, tell me about Michael Jackson telling you guys backstage. I've read a couple different versions of the story that he told you when you were doing We Are the World, or he told you backstage at one of your concerts that he used to dance to that. He used to dance to I Can't Go For That, and he lifted the bass line. What do you remember about that?
He and his brothers had come to see us. I believe it was at the Universal Amphitheater in L.A., one of our shows, and they came to see us, and they came backstage. We were hanging out, and we're talking, and I remember him saying, he said, "Oh, I like to dance. I like to dance to I Can't Go For That in my bedroom mirror." And I was like, cool. I said, okay, good. And then, of course, if you listen to Billie Jean, it's not a complete copy.
Sure.
He just got the feel, basically. Yeah, it's a compliment, I think, that an artist of his caliber would like that song so much that he wanted to use that style of groove.
Wow, and that's been used in Glee and then recently in Coffee and Kareem the Show, but it's actually one of the most sampled pop songs of all time. What did you think about, did you hear Sunrise, Simply Red?
Well, it's a little beyond a sample. He basically used our song.
It is.
He basically used the song and wrote different lyrics and sang a different melody over the verses.
Could be me at this moment in time. Is it in your mind?
So that's not a sample. That's just kind of whatever. The first time we heard it, though, we were doing a video for a very obscure film called Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yeah.
And Nile Rodgers was producing the soundtrack for that. And we were in a park in Queens. And we were taking a break in between the video shoot. And this little girl, teenage girl, came up with a cassette.
Yeah.
And she handed it to us and said, "You guys have here, you got to listen to this." And we didn't know it. And it said, "Say No Go." And it was basically the first time we had heard a sample. And that was, I believe, my first experience with actually hearing a sample, hearing someone taking someone else's existing recording and incorporating it and integrating it into a new song. Yeah. So that blew my mind. That was really the first time I became aware of what was starting to happen in hip hop.
We'll walk to it, then even talk to it and say, y'all can't have none of that. Tell them what to say, Mace.
Yeah, De La Soul, of course, on that, and then Two Live Crew did it, and then Brian McKnight did a cover of it. And of course, The Bird and the Bee and Simply Red, as we just said, and I think it just pushes people to go listen to the original.
Daryl and I have always loved people sampling our stuff, as long as it was it had some musical integrity, that it was done well. We've always encouraged and really licensed so many samples of our music, because to me it's just in a sense it's a compliment. I mean, why not?
So Michael Jackson, he may have borrowed more than a feel of I Can't Go For That for his number one smash, Billie Jean. But you're probably aware of this. If not, interestingly enough, Quincy Jones, in an interview several years ago, said that Michael Jackson ripped the exact bass line from Donna Summer and her song State of Independence, which actually was co-written by John Anderson of Yes, or formerly of Yes. Of all people, right? Listen to these songs back to back. Tell me what you think. So I'm wondering, should I do a history of the song Billie Jean? What do you think? It's a very interesting story. I actually have a lot of interviews with those who were there recording it with Michael. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. Now, before you go here, I do want to just play all of the most famous samples in a row of I Can't Go For That, just to celebrate it. Very cool. Make sure to leave us a comment about John Oates and the incredible catalog that he and Daryl Hall have created. Daryl Hall and John Oates, greatest duo of all time, in my opinion. What do you think of I Can't Go For That, No Can Do? I love the title. Is it the greatest parentheses song ever? Is it their best song even? Let's talk about it below. If you like our content, make sure that you subscribe below. And I say that because a lot of people will ask in the comments, hey, you should do this song, or you should do an interview with this person, and I already have. And so when you're a subscriber, you know when it comes out, so make sure to do that. And check us out on Patreon as well. We have special announcements there. And don't forget to check out Professor of Rock Live with Sammy Agar. Stories and Songs of the Man himself, live event here in Park City. Would love to see you there. You can click on the link below. That's October 29th in Park City, Utah. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Talk to you soon.